Welcome everybody on this beautiful Saturday afternoon or morning time or evening, depending on where you are in the world. And it's an
Mhm.
absolute honor, ladies and gentlemen, to sit down with my friend and the legend, Mallory Dobbs. What is up, Mallory?
What is up? Yeah, happy to be here. It's 9 a.m. here on the West Coast, so just getting woken up in the morning. And what better way to start my Saturday than talking with you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's always an honor. We keep running into each other throughout the whole United States at racetracks like MotoGP. And I turn around there, she is. I'm like, Mallory, what is up?
Yep. Yeah, the
I
most
love it.
random times, like Coda, MotoGP last year, and I was just like, "Oh, hey, what's up?"
I love it.
And then
I love it.
recently at Daytona, yeah.
So, let's start off by talking about your Daytona 200 experience. What was you doing there, and what all festivities did you partake in?
Yeah, so I actually went to Daytona helping Hot Sauce Racing. So I basically managed a team of two riders. My buddy Chris Arbora, who I've raced with up here in Washington, and then my crew chief, Don, which is also his crew chief. So we built two ZX6s and I helped at the shop and kind of I did all the graphics design and installed the graphics and just the team shirts and the scheduling and all that stuff kind of like behind the scenes, right? So and then, yeah, at Daytona, I was just running around like a crazy person, just trying to make sure everything gets done and we're on schedule. And yeah, it was a learning experience. It was my first time managing a team other than my own. And so it felt a lot more stressful because it was like, if things don't turn out right, it's not my money I'm spending, it's someone else's, and I want to make sure everything looks good and everything makes it. And so it was just like, I kind of like thrive in that like high stress level environment of like go, go, go. But like at the same time, it was just like, it was definitely a different experience.
Compared to throwing on your leathers and racing, that whole management and the
Yeah.
the the time schedules and the graphics, it's a different angle and approach, right?
Yeah, and it was like it's so stressful too because it's like when I'm riding, right, I'm like stressed to like ride, and then once I get on the bike and I'm out on the racetrack, I forget it all, right, because you're just riding. And then in this situation, it was like, okay, I'm like shaking right before they're going out. I'm getting all stressed, and then it doesn't go away until the session is over, right? Because I'm like, hopefully they don't crash, and hopefully nothing breaks on the bikes, and hopefully no one hits us, whatever it may be, right? So it's like the whole 30-minute session. I'm just like, ah. So it's like it's so much more stressful, and I'm like talking to the team, and I'm talking to my crew chief. I'm like, man, this is how you guys operate every day when your riders go out. Like, how do you do this? So it's
Yeah.
funny.
It's a different situation, being on the outside of the bubble looking in, right, instead of being the main show of the program.
Yeah.
But you learn a lot. Obviously you've learned a shit ton doing that,
Mhm. Totally.
versus
Yeah.
preparing for battle, right, which is a different unique situation altogether.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a different side of things that was really cool to see. It's like I definitely feel like in my future, there is a time when maybe I'm not racing, anymore and I'm either managing a team or I do my own team. So I think there is like an opportunity there for me. And I really do like the project management, like I'm a project manager by day for civil engineering stuff. So it's like I'm used to coordinating and all that stuff. And so it's kind of like, similar, but in motorsports. And I love motorsports. So, there definitely is something there that maybe in my future, that's what that looks like. So it was good.
Listen, you're an absolute legend and a champion. I can see you fill both roles absolutely amazing, right? Being a female champion and then having your own race team, being a championship winning team too as well. It's awesome, and I can't wait. Your future is absolutely bright, and you deserve to be where you are,
Thank you.
110%. And I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy for you.
Thank
It's,
you.
it's amazing. So listen, let's get into it. Last year, first ever women's FIM world champion, and they
Yeah.
picked my friend Mallory Dobbs. I was so excited for you. I was screaming, I was yelling, and then Lizzie reaches out to me, was like, "Mallory's going to be my teammate." I was like, "Shut up! How awesome is that, right?" And then so two of my friends across the world, first
hmm
time FIM world championship teammates. Tell us your experience. Let's do a recap of the how the year went.
Yeah. Lissy was great. Meeting her is she's just a little firecracker, right? Like I think someone described it as like she's a bottle of champagne, ready to pop at any given moment. And she's definitely energetic and so so sweet. And it was really cool to have her as a teammate, and our year was definitely it had a lot of trials and tribulations along the way, right? It's a new championship, so everybody's kind of learning the ropes of that. And on top of that, it was like it was just some bad luck too. And yeah, I got taken out three times throughout the season by three different girls, in three different scenarios. And then, I had a couple like minor crashes on my own, and it was just a matter of like, it's really hard. Like everybody could sit on their couch and say, well, I could do it better than her, blah 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 blah. And it's like then you go over to Europe and you go race over there and it's a different ball game, like it's just different. And some of these girls have been racing since they were pipsqueaks, like Maria Herrera and Anna Carrasco are on a different level, right? And you go over there and you're like, you've been idolizing these people. You're like, oh my God, these people are amazing. And then you see them on the racetrack and you really do see like their level of skill, like their level of their abilities in motorsports, compared to what, my short span in motorsports career. It's like I was very humbled. And, I kind of came in and said, well, I did Moto America on super sport bike. How hard could it be? And not quite that arrogant, right? But it's similar. Like it's kind of my attitude. It's like, I was like, okay, like we could do pretty good. And then it was just like back to back to back. We had a false neutral in free practice on the very first session of the very first round, and I got taken out with the false neutral, right? So I had the false neutral. I went to run off the racetrack, and the girl behind me got scared that I was going so much slower and like mashed the front brake and tucked the front and ran into me. And that was how my season started. And so then we like qualified on a bent bike because we didn't know that every time you crash them, basically the triples get bent because they're stock. And so, I qualified 18th and then worked my way up to 11th and then crashed myself out of the race. And so like the season just started in this like chaos moment, right? And and then we ended the season, the last five out of the six races we finished in the top 10, and we missed out on the 11th overall by like 10 points. So like in the grand scheme of things it turned out okay, but it was just like there were some moments where I was like, oh my gosh, this is so hard, I don't know that I can do this. um but yeah, it was a really cool experience. And then there was definitely some learning, lots of learning along the way. I had to work a lot on my riding abilities, a lot of little things that I got away with riding my super sport bike because it was fast and I was little. And in a spec class where everybody's on the same bikes, it's like the amount of time it takes to close the throttle and go to the brakes is really important. And so I had to work a lot on like little things in my riding that maybe I wouldn't have, like I should have already been doing, but I wasn't. So I'm kind of stoked, to kind of take a clean slate to this season and take what we learned from last year and apply it to this year.
Oh, 100%. One question I do have for you, speaking of coming from Moto America to World Superbike, basically, you're following that beautiful circus around too as well. What was there any like? Was the pressure different on you going over there because it's new tracks, new bike, new team, new people? Was the pressure any different compared to being in Moto America?
For sure. I mean, it's the same thing, right? It's the same, like you said, the same circus kind of thing where it's like, you show up, you riding bikes, you're doing all the same stuff. But yeah, it definitely was like, I put a lot of pressure on myself, I think, to do good because I was like, okay, I'm literally representing America. And like World Superbike kind of like, highlighted that for all these girls. Like, you're representing your country. What does that mean to you? It was a question they kept asking. And it was like, well, like it's still racing to me and I still want to do well. But also, yeah, thanks for putting that on my shoulders. Like all of America is like looking at me going, let's go. So yeah, it definitely was a lot of pressure. And then learning the new bike, the new tracks, and the new team was, exponential. Like it's, yeah, riding in R7's okay, but like it's stock and you can only change so many things. And then, we don't get a lot of ride time. Like at Moto America, at least you get a qualifying one and then you get to like sleep on it and then do a qualifying two the next day. Well, like for our stuff, we had one qualifying the same day. So it was free practice, one qualifying, and it was 20 minutes each, 25 minutes each. And then that was it. And then we get to race. And so the amount of like time that we had to like learn a racetrack that some of these girls have been racing at before or whatever was hard. And that's inherently like why there were so many crashes and things like that is like we're riding stock bikes, mostly stock bikes at the limit at racetracks we've never seen before. So
For sure. I remember when you put the post out last year when you got accepted to the FIM World Championship, and I was so happy for. I was like, yes, let's go. And then you had to come up with the money, obviously, to get there and pay, and there you were. Of course, I was glued to the TV every time you guys went out and raced. Of course, I was cheering for you and Lizzie, 110%.
Mhm.
How do you think you and Lizzie dynamically fit well within the team?
Good. I mean, the team, as inherently as it is, it's like, the team always has like different personalities, so you always have to kind of like learn that. I mean, as teams go, I brought my own crew chief, and Lissy kind of brought her own crew chief, and so that was kind of nice because then at least we knew that the dynamics between the rider and the person working on the bike was good. Um, and then really, I mean, Lissy and I just like tried to talk. Like I just, if we were struggling somewhere, we'd have a discussion about it. And I always kind of told Lissy, like if you have any questions, like let me know. Let's talk about it. And she had James Toslin like kind of come over and help a lot. We had the team kind of like he came over and coached, and I kind of leaned on JP a little bit. It was like, hey, I'd text JP like, hey, I'm struggling, and he's been to a couple of the tracks, so he was able to kind of help. And um yeah, I think Lissy really appreciated that she had somebody she could lean on and trust to talk about whatever it may be, right? Like outside and inside of like at the racetrack. So it was really cool. She's definitely, there's an age difference, so I kind of felt like mama bird, like taking care of little Lissy, like come on, let's go. She's Yeah, it is. So that was funny for me. But yeah, we went to the arcade, when we were in Italy together, and just kind of had fun like outside the track. And unfortunately, she got hurt, a couple times throughout the season, and so she wasn't able to finish out the season. But we still stayed in touch, and I've been talking to her about her plans for this year. And yeah, so I think out of all things, like our relationship definitely has stayed throughout it. And I mean, I'll always be friends with her. She wants me to come to the UK and come ride, a couple tracks and stuff. So we're trying to plan that with all of our crazy schedules. But she wants me to come ride with her, so we'll see if we can make it work.
You should. Obviously, Cadwell Park's on the agenda, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and I wanna go to Mallory Park just because it's named after me, but
Right.
everybody says it sucks. So I'm like, "Well, okay."
I love
So,
it.
but
Yeah, I mean, I've never been to Mallory Park. I've been to Brands Hatch and Cadwell.
mhm,
Of course, I know Mallory Park. Playing video games and watching it all these years on TV. I mean, they do say it's not a very good track, but it's a racetrack and it's named after you. So how bad could it really be,
right,
right?
right. Who knows? I mean,
That's
it
what
probably
I'm
could be
saying.
pretty bad, but, it's fine.
You never know, right?
You never know.
It is definitely one of those things. And again, I'm so happy for you. I think you absolutely did a proper mega job last season, given
Thank
the
you.
circumstances, going overseas, learning new tracks, learning new people, learning your crew chief. And well, you knew your crew chief, but the
Mhm.
whole team and the dynamics, and
Yeah.
try to get comfortable. I
Mhm.
tell this to everybody. It's so important to be in a team where everybody believes in the rider, right? And they understand what you're talking about, and they believe in
Mhm.
what you say, instead of saying, oh
Mhm.
no, that's not it, this is what the data is saying, right? You
Right, right.
Sometimes I think it's difficult for the engineer side to take wholeheartedly what you're telling them and trying to explain to them when they're
Mhm.
seeing something different on the telemetry, right? But I feel
Totally.
like when they do and they listen to you, you go faster and you progress a lot quicker than,
Mhm.
oh no, this, and you're like, no, that's not it, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I
it's funny because like crew chief and I talk about that. Like I, obviously being the team manager, like at Daytona, I got to see kind of how the riders interact with the crew chiefs and what they were saying, and then behind the scenes what the crew chiefs were looking at, right? Like when the riders were gone, we were at the house, looking at the data. And there has been times where like Don's like, I listen to you. He's like, but I only take certain things from you that maybe will apply. And I was like, yeah, it makes sense because some of the things I'm just making up. It's just like a rider feeling, right? But there was a time last year where like I was like, "Hey, Don, I really need this gearing change. Like I want to change it." And he's like, "Okay." And we changed it, and I came back in and I was like, "Don, that wasn't right. I know." And he goes, "I know." And he's like, "I just had to let you like figure that out." He's like, "Cuz I knew that if I said no, you were going to argue with me. So I just let you figure it out." He's like, "That was a learning experience." So like, fair enough. So there's
uh,
times where like,
I
yeah,
think it's important for a crew chief to do that, right? To
totally.
change what you asked for, and then you go out and you realize you're like, yeah, absolutely, that was the wrong direction. Or
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes you're like, yeah, that's actually a step better in that direction. Let's keep moving
Yeah,
forward with the
right,
changes, right?
right.
So in Europe, the tracks are unlike Moto America tracks. Obviously, what was your favorite track that you went to last year and raced at?
Portimao for sure.
What a
Yeah,
track!
is and I'm so bummed that we're not going there again this year, but yeah, like the elevation, the views, the people there, like it was just so cool. Like I know all the racetracks were great. Like I have no complaints against any of them. I mean, the weather was interesting at some of them, but like, Downington's beautiful. It's so green, and same thing. The views are great, and like the vibes at Downington are just crazy, right? You got people drinking beers at 8:30 in the morning from like the little cafes open. And it's like breakfast and beers, and there's people walking around just drinking at 8:30. You're like, wow, okay. And yeah, it was just it definitely like the motorcycle racing vibe in some of those places is just so much different than America.
It is
So,
absolutely it is. It's the same vibe but different,
mhm.
right? It's some of them's more intense vibe, some of it's less intense, but I feel like the people get more interactive over
Yeah,
there than they
yeah.
do here in Moto America for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, it was so funny because I was sitting in the cafe like working one of the mornings. It was like load in day, and we had to be there early. And I'm just sitting in the cafe doing like work, like actual work. And there's these like three guys sitting at the table behind me, like older guys, and they were just like, "That doesn't look like the UK." Because I was in like a Google Maps, like looking at this property and stuff. And I was like, "Oh no, like it's from back home. I'm from Washington State, America." And they were like, "Oh, cool." And then they started talking to me, and then they were like, blah blah blah, and I was like, "Oh, I'm a racer," and they're like, "What? You're a racer? That's so cool!" And then they started talking to me, and they all added me on Facebook, and they were like, "Oh my god, we gotta stay in touch." And then they got like a picture, posted it. They were like, they were just so stoked. They were just like, you could just tell, like, they tell the stories of like, "I've been coming here since whatever year, and I love it," and blah blah blah. And you're like, "Oh man, you're just a diehard motorcycle fan. You just love motorcycles." Like, so it was cool.
Aren't we all, right? We're all a diehard
Oh yeah,
motorcycle fan.
yeah.
It's there's nothing like it in the world. And speaking of, being in the position you're in, it's got to be a weird but a humble feeling for people to recognize you and say, "Hey, Mallory, what's up? Let me get a picture and an autograph." And you're like, "What? Me? Really?"
Yeah.
It's so. Tell me about that experience. 'Cause I know you had that a lot last year.
Oh, it's crazy because I still feel just like this racer just from back home. I'm like, "Oh, I just race motorcycles. Like it's fine." And like I talked to you about it, like, "Oh, I'm a motorcycle racer." And my old coworker actually was like, "She's being really humble. She actually races in World Superbike. She's one of the fastest girls in the world." And I was just like, "I don't know, like I don't feel like it." Sometimes I'm like, "Oh, I'm still just working," but it's really humbling. Like, it's just so crazy. Like, I remember walking through the fan area at MotoGP Coda, and like at my own race rounds, it's one thing, but it was like MotoGP, right? And I'm like walking around Coda, and I was like gonna go meet up with somebody, I think like Alpenstar or something. And I was like walking through the fan area, just walking through, and I hear my name from across the like fan area, Mallory, and I'm like, what the heck? And someone was like, "Oh my goodness, it's so cool to see you here. Like, this is so cool." And they're like, "Can I get an autograph and a picture?" And I was like, "Sure." Like, it was wild. And this was even before like the season really had started, but it was like somebody like had just recognized me, and like it's so weird. Like I said, it's like still sometimes I just get so taken back by it because I still just feel like, "Oh my god, I'm just a racer." And like to be reminded of the impact that I'm making in like the motorsports community and like inspiring other females or whoever it may be to get into motorsports or whatever. It's just really really cool because it's like reminding me of like why I do this. That's outside of me being competitive. But
Absolutely. So did you ever feel a little uncomfortable at times, when somebody says that? It's like it because it's so weird, right? It's like a little bit uncomfortable. Show her
yeah.
Fiona. We got a puppy, or a new puppy. Her name's Princess
Oh,
Fiona. Rossi wanted to come in
princess.
here.
Oh my
Fiona, come here.
goodness.
Come here, Bubba. Dude, Rossi's all excited. Because I had to put one of my dogs down,
I'm
like nine
sorry.
months ago. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's part of life, right?
Yeah.
So we adopted Princess Fiona. My wife's been sending me a bunch of pictures of dogs, right? And one
Uh,
day I was like, I gotta have her. And my wife jokingly said, "Okay, we'll go get her." Little did she know I was on the phone doing the application at Angels of Assisi's right at the time. Woke up, went there when they first opened, and brought her home. Took a picture of her on the way home. She's like, "Well,
oh,
I
so
guess you wasn't
cute.
bullshitting, right?" So yeah,
I love
she's
that.
dude, she's absolutely amazing. She's a lab pit mix, and she is
Cute.
just my wife said a dog will never sleep with us in the bed. Guess what? She sleeps in the bed every night with us.
Look, literally, she does this. This is how
So
she.
cute.
I'm no joke. She does this.
She does sleep like that. I'm not gonna lie. Straight on the back with all her stuff just sprout out. It's
She literally
Yeah.
hilarious.
sleeps on her leg. She sleeps on her back with her legs wide open and her arms like
It's
this.
funny.
So her
It's
It's
hilarious.
starfish.
cute.
She goes.
She's so cute.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I love dogs. I'm a big dog person, so
Mm-hmm.
it's absolutely amazing. But yeah, back to what I was saying is sometimes does it make you feel a little uncomfortable, like at ease?
I mean, like, it's definitely like sometimes it brings a little bit of pressure to me of like, like posting on social media and
Is there
creating
someone?
content is like, before it was like just posting about my life. And, I've always been like very,
See, yeah.
like honest and just like forthcoming with everything that's happening, right? And just like really like, hey, this is what's going on. And as I've gotten more like quote unquote famous, or like more and more people know me, it definitely like makes me feel like a little more pressure to like come up with things that people want to see, or that I think they're gonna like, and this and the other. And so it definitely is hard to like be that, like I'm just still trying to be that genuine person because that's what people appreciate. But it's just a little bit more pressure because it's like, yeah, more people, there's more eyes on me now, right? And more judgment. And it's like, okay, well, here we go. So
Look, I get it too. Like it's a very humbling experience. A little bit uncomfortable too at the time, just because
mhm,
you're not used to that, and then you realize that you said it. Like, wow, I'm making this certain impact on people that I never thought
mhm,
I would have this impact on. Right.
yeah,
As far as the whole social media go, I find myself I stay 100% genuine me. Just make
yeah,
posts that make you happy, and
hmm,
not everybody's gonna like you and accept you,
yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah,
let's just be honest, right? You
totally,
can't.
yeah, yeah,
I don't worry about that. I just do me, right? And put
mhm,
the post out that I think that I would want to see, right?
right,
Does it add a little bit extra pressure to it? You said it, right? It does in a
hmm,
certain way, because you want to. When you realize you're making an impact, you want to continue to do that on every post and all that, right?
hmm,
But the
right,
matter of fact is, we're not going to do it on every post, right? Some people are just gonna be like,
right.
whatever. But
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
goes along with the territory. And you, my friend, is an absolute legend. Yes, you should be
You.
proud of yourself where you are right now. I know I am, and I know everybody else around the world is.
Thank you.
You've come a far way,
Mm.
um, and you're doing it. Look at you.
Yeah.
Look at you shining right now. Look at you. I love it. Right. So
Thank you.
so Eddie Case said the same thing. He just
Mhm.
says Mallory Dobbs living the
Living the
dream. So
dream.
blessed. That's absolutely right. So
Mhm.
that was 2024. Now we're in 2025. What is
Mhm.
happening in 2025, Mallory?
Oof, yeah, lots of things. I actually leave for Spain on Wednesday. I was going to race in an R7 Cup next weekend, but they actually had to postpone it because Jerez got so flooded and damaged with all of the rain. So we're just going over there a little bit early. But then I'm going to ride Valencia with Andrew the following weekend. We're going to do 3 days at Valencia. So yeah, basically, once I leave the 19th, I'm over in Spain, well, over in Europe until May 5th, basically after my second race round. So I'm just going to stay over there the whole time and try to get in as much riding as possible. But yeah, we're doing our own team thing this year. So last year we signed on with a team, yeah, and it didn't quite pan out the way we wanted it to. And so this year I got a little bit more support, and now that I know kind of how it works, it's I mean, I managed my own team at Moto America for a season, and that was hard, right? Because it was like transport of the bikes, the parts, the things, and all the logistics. And with the championship, it's a little easier because it's they transport the bikes for us. They set up the pit space. They set up the big old like our bouncy castle, like our little inflatable canopy thing, and they do all that for us. So then basically from there, it's just working on the bikes and getting it all ready, and then they have all the spare parts. And so now that I know how it runs, I'm actually really excited to be able to kind of put together the own program. So I've got 2 title sponsors this year that stepped up to help out. So Doreen at Ducati Richmond has been a longtime supporter of mine, and she's going to be coming to all the race rounds and all that stuff. So, it's been great to have her on board and kind of feel really good about what we can put together as a program. And, then we signed OnlyFans this year. So, yeah, I mean, it's looking really good as far as the season goes. I'm feeling good about it. We're going to do some testing as much as I can. Like I said, we're going to ride Valencia, and I've got like Anna put me in contact with one of the Spanish Yamaha dealerships over there, and they're going to let me borrow a bike in their van and take it to Valencia. And I'm just like, it's just great. Like the amount of support and the connections that I made last year just really help bring a lot more confidence to what we can do for this year. So, yeah. And so it's definitely, so we're planning on doing the R7, the women's championship this year, full season. And then I'm trying to ride. So then they announced, World Endurance announced that they're doing 2 rounds of an R7 race, endurance race. It's 80 minutes, 2 riders, 2 bikes, and at Le Mans and Spa. So I'm trying to put together a program to do that too, because it sounds like it'd be a lot of fun. Like Spa on an R7 is probably going to be boring, but I still want to ride Spa. Like after being there with Andrew and watching Eau Rouge, like I want to go there so bad. So Trying to put those together too, see if that fits in the schedule, and then we'll do the Moto America round at the Ridge in Twins and Super Hooligans. So we're gonna ride in R7 there in the Ridge, since it's our home track and there's a break in the schedule. It kind of fits in. So luckily, I get to see all my Moto America family and get to race there too.
I
So
love it. I love it. So tell us on who's, since it's your own team, who are the team members and what roles do they play?
yeah, so we just have one. It's just gonna be me as a rider for this year, and I'm hoping for next year, maybe we can expand to 2 riders. And basically it's me, team managing, riding. Don with Superbike Underground is my crew chief, same guy as last year, and he'll be there. And then we're trying to put together. I have to have another mechanic or another set of hands to kind of help with stuff. And so we're still trying to figure that out. It's a little bit hard to bring someone from America for that, because it's like, hey, spending $1,500 round trip around to bring somebody out is just a lot of money. So I'm trying to find someone over there in Europe to help and do the kind of like grid. The grid is what's really hard, right? When you do the grid stuff, it's like you require 2 people that kind of help and hold things and do all stands and stuff. And then Andrew will be my media guy when he comes out. He's going to miss the first 2 rounds because our rounds conflict. But for all the other rounds, like, he'll be doing a bunch of the media stuff. We're going to do some vlogs for the season and kind of just document a lot more of the stuff behind the scenes, So our team is small, but it'll be mighty, I'm sure. So I'm excited.
Absolutely, it will. It's. I think it's awesome when people do a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, because it's stuff that normal fans don't get an opportunity to see,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah, right.
and it's always an eye opener when a fan or somebody that's into the race and watch it was like, dude, I had no idea it was that much involved, right? Setting up hot pit, cold pit, dude, everything that goes along with it, right? Everything behind the
Yeah.
scenes. That's one of my favorite parts. I like when I go to
Mhm.
Moto America and I watch all my friends race, even in BSB. I love to obviously make my rounds and get all my hugs in, but I like to sit back and watch during practice and qualifying.
Mhm.
When things don't go their way, how they work together as a team. Like, I call it coming together like Voltron, right? The heads, the arms, the legs, everything comes together, and they end up figuring it out, and it goes from
Mhm.
this session that wasn't so great to, at the end of it, at least some smiles.
Mhm.
That means
Yeah,
some progression taking part and
totally.
happening, which is absolutely. And then there's the flip side of that coin, right, where nothing just goes your way,
Mhm.
but still, when you walk by, you feel positive energy coming out, and that's very
Mhm.
important for the rider, when
Yeah,
things don't go your way, because it's racing. Just
totally.
like you said, last year you got
Totally.
taken out, false neutral crashes that was out of your control, but this is part of the game we play, right? It's not
Mhm.
always going to go the way we want it to. So
Totally. And,
again,
and the environment makes a big difference on how you perform too. Like, if you don't have a
100%.
positive environment around you or a positive team, or you don't feel like, people are being supportive of you, it really does affect like how things are going, like on the racetrack and kind of off the racetrack. Like, even if like everything's going great and then like, say things aren't great in the pits, like it just doesn't make like the attitude thing, it just changes everything. And, I've experienced that as well. And it's a challenge, you have to kind of like figure out how to put together the results when you feel like things aren't necessarily super positive around you, and it's hard.
100%, but that's where you dig down deep inside, and
Hmm.
you find a different way to still be happy, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it makes you an all-round better rider, because
Hmm.
you're in a different situation than what you're normally in, right? And
Yeah.
that only makes you stronger mentally, because we all know how
Hmm.
mental racing is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just progresses your game even further, right? Even though you don't know it at the time, and you're stuck in what we call the suck, right? Like, this sucks,
Yeah.
and I can't, wrap my head on how am I going to get out of this situation, because I'm happy I'm here, but I'm not happy with the team or certain people or
Right.
whatever the case
Right.
may be. It
Right.
it it adds a different stress element to it. But I feel
Totally.
like if you can stay out of your own head and
Hmm.
still keep pushing it forward, it
Yep.
because every time I seen you on camera, I see nothing but smiles. I did well, not so much Lizzie, right? Because her year really didn't go the way
Yeah.
she wanted it
Yeah.
to.
Hmm.
Um, and of course, I messaged her. We stayed
Hmm.
messaging all the time, and
Yeah.
I'm happy for her too as well. So speaking
Mhm.
of all this, right? Who was the biggest clowns in the paddock out of all the women last year?
Oof, I don't know. I mean, like, it's funny because like some of the girls are definitely like more to themselves, and like there's definitely a little bit of a language barrier, And as the season went on, it got better. Like, we learned how to communicate with each other, because sometimes it like for me, like I had never really had like experience of like interacting with people that maybe like don't speak very good English, right? So it's like learning how to communicate and like stuff like that. But I made really good friends with Roberta Ponziani and her girlfriend, and like we hung out, went bowling at one point, and yeah, they're all good people, and I really got to spend some time with Anna outside of the racetrack, and she's just a goober, just like the rest of us. But it was really cool to kind of see people away from the racetrack too, and kind of hang out. Taylor and I had we had made dinner at the house. Like I had this little apartment in Italy, and we had a week off, and so her and Ted drove the van over and parked it in this parking lot, and then they came and washed their clothes in the in my apartment. And, we had dinner and got to kind of just like spend some time outside of the racetrack, which was cool. And so yeah, I think we're all just people just trying to do the same thing. We're all just goofy in our own right. So it's been fun to kind of make some new friends, like literally across the world that I never would have thought of.
Yeah, absolutely. I find that when I'm trying to communicate with people that don't speak English, I use the app on my phone to translate. Right, I'm
Yeah.
like, hang on
Yeah.
a second,
Hold on.
and they're like, yeah. I know, and they'll do the same thing. I'm like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
It's
Oh my gosh, funny story about that was the week we were in Italy staying in Cremona, and we had this house, and it was this really weird house, but it was huge, and it was like on this main street and like little tiny town. And this Italian guy like walked over from across the street and just like came into the house because we didn't lock the door, and just comes in with wine and like starts speaking like straight up Italian, just blah 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 blah, blah, like holding up this wine, right? And literally, I hear Lissy talking to this guy, like trying to talk to him, and I'm like, we're in the kitchen making food, and I'm like, why do I hear Italian? Like this is weird. So I like come out into the living room, and Lissy's trying to communicate with this guy that has his wine bottle. It's just in our living room, blah, 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 blah. And we're like, so then, like, we didn't have a service in the house, like, downstairs, so we had to go outside so we could use, like, Translate. So we're, like, using Google Translate, like, talking into our phone, like, trying to get, like, to figure out what he is saying. He's like, "Oh, then we found out he made the wine, and he was bringing it as a gift, and he's friends with the owner of the house." And it was just like, but Lizzie was just panic mode. Like, she didn't know what to do. She's just like, "I don't speak Italian." Like, but it was just so random. And like, yeah, it was just one of those moments where like we told him we were racing motorcycles. He got all excited. And yeah, he brought over another bottle of wine later. And like, it was so funny. But yeah, full blown Italian, no English.
I love it. Was the wine any good?
Oh, it was really good. Although one of them was like a sparkling wine, and we tried to like it was I think Graham was Lissy's crew chief that weekend. So we're trying to open it because it was like the race round's over. We're trying to like open it, and like as he opened it, his thumb was like over the top of it, and then it started to like spray out and literally sprayed directly at me, like in my face. And so then Lissy's just like cracking up laughing in the corner while I'm just like doused in like sparkling wine, and I'm just like, "Ah," and literally everybody's just cracking up laughing. I was like, okay, glad everybody else is having fun. I'm gross.
Right.
But it was good. It was really good.
I love it. What experiences, to travel around the world? Who would have thought you'd be in this position and make all these new friends and
Yeah.
contacts? It's like,
I'd
again,
never been to Europe before, right? I'd never been out of the country. I'd been to Canada and Mexico. Like, and
that's
like
not
that
out of the
kind of
country.
counts.
That's
Yeah.
part of our country. It's right next door. That don't count.
Yeah. Don't tell Canada that. But like, yeah,
Facts.
it definitely was a whole new experience. I'd never been out of the country, so it was very daunting. And now I feel like such a well-versed like traveler and stuff. Like I stayed in a hostel in Portugal for a couple days, just because I was, I had some spare time, so I stayed in Sintra. And it was beautiful, the castles and the hiking and all that stuff. And it was like $25 a night to stay in this hostel. And I met all these like English speaking people that were on different journeys of their life, talking about, well, I just quit my job and I'm just going to travel for a couple months. And I'm, working, I did this thing. So I'm going to work remote or work here at this place. And it was really cool just meeting all people from different walks of life and kind of talking to them. And I never would have imagined doing anything like that. Cause like, again, I never really traveled alone either until I was like way older. My mom and I always traveled together. I'm an only child. And yeah, I never really like did that on my own. So here I am like traveling around Europe with all my motorcycle gear, just like, all right, let's go. So yeah, it's crazy to think about the year I had. And then I'm like, all right, now we're going to run it back, do it again.
Yeah,
So
it's. I remember when I went to the UK, I was all by myself. My wife didn't go. My son, nobody went with me, and I was like, man, how wild is this? Like, how nervous am I going to be? Like, I
mhm.
don't know where I'm at. I have I did have some friends over there, right? So
Mhm.
that's absolutely a plus. But still, being being overseas in a whole new environment, new food too as well, right? Let's just
Mhm.
be honest. The food,
Mhm.
my favorite food over there was the proper fish and chips, the curry and
Oh,
the
so
mushy
good.
peas, right? It's so
Yeah,
good.
so good.
Um, but
Mhm.
I've never what threw me back, Mallory, is I never felt out of place. I never felt like
Mhm.
homesick, so to speak, right? Like I just
Yeah.
want to go home. I felt it's weird to say, but I kind of felt at home. It's
Mm.
weird to say, right? And
I
it
felt
makes
like
it for a better experience.
at week like 5, I was like, "I wanna go home," because of the last stint, I stayed away from home for like 6 weeks, and I was like, "Alright, I'm ready to go home." But it was also like, Andrew was racing at home, and so it felt like I was missing out on that, and yeah, it was definitely a challenge, but yeah, it definitely,
100%.
like, doesn't feel like it's still fun, and you get to do a bunch of stuff and experience everything, so it's not terrible.
No, it's not. It's living the dream, right?
Mhm.
There's a million people that would kill to be in your situation
Mhm.
right now, you know. So
Yeah. I'm very grateful.
absolutely. Jessie Marie, what is up? She says, we love Doreen.
Mhm. Everybody does. She's the best.
I love it. I love it. I don't know if I ever met Doreen. Did she go to any of the rounds in Moto America?
She was at like the Ridge, and then I don't think she was able to come to any of the other ones. Um, I don't remember. Oh, I think she came to Daytona, and then she came to Laguna when I did the full season of Super Hooligans. So the
Yeah.
Hyper Motard is her bike, and so that's and then Diva Racing is what we named the team this year, and that was inspired by Doreen. So she actually had someone come up with the logo and everything. So the whole team name and everything were kind of joint ventures on this whole team ownership thing. So
I love
yeah.
it. I
And
love
she's
it.
been a longtime supporter of the industry. She's supported a lot of racers throughout her time of being involved in motorsports, and like Josh Heron and Kyle Wyman, and she's really like Elena Myers back in the day, and so she's loves supporting the sport, and I attribute basically where I am now because of her, because I would not have done my full season of Super Hooligans and Super Sport if it wasn't for her. Like I did my 2 rounds in 2022 in Super Sport. I did the Ridge and Laguna, and then kind of just had some conversations with her about doing a hyper motard for Super Hooligans, and we were like, okay, like let's do that. And then I was like, well, if I'm already going to 4 rounds, what's another 5? And then some crazy thought of me said, well, as a rookie in Moto America, I'm going to do 2 bikes. And so we did 2 bikes, but we made it work. And yeah, she's always supported me even when things have been bad and things haven't gone the best. And yeah, she's like I said, she's my biggest supporter, and literally I probably wouldn't be doing this world championship racing if it wasn't for her. Because if I hadn't done Moto America, I don't know that they would have picked me up, right? Because I would have been some Yahoo from Washington State just trying to get in to do World Superbike. So yeah, it's cool.
Thank you, Doreen. Thank you so
Mhm.
much for the love and support for everybody. Right? That's
Mhm.
it's. I love it when people give back to the sport as much as it's given
Yeah.
them, and
Yeah.
and be behind the scenes for the success of many people.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's what a satisfaction feeling, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. And then so we got Becky. What is up, Becky? She says Mallory Dobbs racing is proof. If you dream it and work hard, anything is possible, and that's a fact.
Mhm. She's like my second mom. I've showed horses with her she's known me since I was a pipsqueak before I started showing horses, and then ever since I've shown horses. So she's literally at the barn that I have my horse at and everything. And like I said, she's literally when I have like a boyfriend or something, I've always been like, it's not my mom you have to worry about, it's Becky. I'm always like, you got to meet Becky, and she's a little bit tough. So, you got to watch out. She's the best.
So how did Becky like Andrew?
She loves him, but she hasn't
Good,
met him a bunch yet, but she definitely has met him a couple times at the barn when he's helping me out, so she appreciates it.
good.
And then, yeah, I just told her the other day that he moved in, and she was so excited. She's like, "How's it going? Oh my gosh, it's so cool." So, yeah, it's cute.
That is exciting, and congratulations. I'm happy for the both of you. It's
Thank you.
amazing.
It's
And then
it's so funny when we talk about it though too, because it's like, "Oh yeah, we moved in," but also it's just like a home base because we're traveling so much. We're like, "They were really home." So it's gonna be like, oh, we're going to Europe together, and then he comes back, and then he goes and like tests, and then he's gonna go race, and then I come back, and then we're home for a couple weeks, and so yeah, it's more or less just our home base at this point. But
I love it. And obviously your job lets you. Do you work remote? Obviously away in Europe at your job, or
yeah, so I actually work fully remote anyway. So I actually work out of
okay,
an office in Austin, Texas.
nice.
So Yeah, full-time civil engineer still, project manager, working on like site development projects and things. So yeah, fully remote anyway. And I told them when I interviewed, hey, I race in motorcycles like across the world. I'm in Europe a lot for the summer, and they're like, cool, sounds good. Just let us know. And, if you need to change your work schedule or whatever, just let us know, and we'll be happy to accommodate that. So, I've just been killing it at work the past couple of months. And then I'm like, hey, by the way, I'm leaving. And then I'm hoping that, if I do a good enough job while I'm gone, it'll all be okay. So,
I love it. And it makes your life easier too, that you have a job that's fully behind you and gives you that freedom, right? I think that a lot of things when it comes to racing too, that's one of the biggest struggles is working a full-time job. And, you pack up, you leave Wednesday, you don't come home, you leave
totally.
Sunday as soon as the race is like, as soon as you're done, you pull in the pits and it's immediately this frantic, everybody just taking all this shit down, stuff it in the truck and bye, see you next time, and hit the road. However far you are from the track, it might be 20-hour drive, whatever. And then you wake up and you maybe get no sleep at all and you get back to work and you've been up for almost 2 days straight, right? That's the big juggle act.
It was a challenge. Yeah. I mean, it's always been a challenge. And even working remote is still hard because it's like just there's not enough time in the day to get it all done,
Yeah.
But I mean, it was really hard because last year when I got into the championship, like I've worked with the same people for 8 years, basically my entire career. And I've changed companies with them. Like we moved from one company to another. And, they've always supported me when I did full-time Moto America. They were like, yeah, just work remote Thursday, Friday, like no big deal. Cause I travel, Wednesday, and then I come back Sunday night and I come to work Monday, dragging ass, and they were so supportive of me and all of that. And it was so great. Well, when I did the Europe stuff, I said, hey guys, I'm going to be going to Europe. Like, how are we going to deal with this? And, they were accommodating, and they were like, well, you can take, a week off with no pay and then blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, but it's engineering. Like stuff doesn't just stop when I'm gone, right? So stuff's still going to be going, and then you guys are going to have to take up the slack, and that's not fair, right? And so I kind of like felt bad, but I was like, I don't know if I can do this and be working in the office, because what if I want to stay over there for a couple more weeks, or what if this comes up, And so I started looking for a remote job. So at the beginning of last year, I actually quit that job that I'd worked with the same people for 8 years and got a fully remote job. And I was like, I just have to do this for now, and maybe I'll come back in a couple years when I'm done, But I wanted to make sure that they didn't despise me for, not being a very good worker when I'm over in Europe, right? Because I'm not going to be the best engineer I can be. I'm not, it's just impossible. If I was dedicating 100% of my time to being an engineer, it would be better, but I'm not doing that. And so it was a really hard decision, but it was one of those things that I'm really glad I did it and took the jump, because I wouldn't have been able to do all the things I did last year if I still had to go to the office, on Mondays coming back from Europe, So I'm really glad I did it, and I'm still in contact with my old coworkers, and my best friend, and he is so supportive. He's like, I knew you'd go do great things someday, and because they've seen me like since I first started club racing. And then, coming up all the way through to Moto America and then now to World Superbike. So they kind of knew the progression of what was happening, and they've always been supportive of that. So I'm very thankful. And, I did get an opportunity to get this fully remote job. And so it's helped, but it's definitely stressful.
Yeah, I could only imagine, right? And then, after your mini championships and you hang your leathers up, you'll be a team owner doing the same thing. So you'll still need that remote job for sure.
Right. Totally. Yeah. I don't
I
know that
love
I'll
it.
ever want to go back to the office at this point, but
Who would? Mallory, in your shoes, who would? I know I would, and be like, "No, I ain't coming back. I got my laptop. We're good. I'll send you everything
yeah.
you need." Yeah,
Yeah,
I love it.
exactly.
I love it. And we got another legend on too right now. Jamie Hanks Elliott. What is up, Jamie? Julie.
Oh,
Sorry, I don't know why I
it's their
said
mom.
Jamie. Yeah, I know. Anyway, says hi, Mallory. See you soon at Cremona.
Yep. 2 weeks. We'll be
Yep.
testing at Corona. Yeah. So Jamie also is in the championship full season this year doing her own team. So stoked for her as well.
I love it. Yeah, I think you girls are going to kill it. I don't think it. I know it, right? And it's I'm happy to see that I have friends in the championship that are just gonna absolutely murder it, right? It's and it's fun to see, the relationships you build with them too over there as well. It might open up doors. You might be in BSB one day. You don't know, right? Yeah, I mean, seriously, you
Yep.
never know where it'll take you.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
and that's the beauty of our sport, right? I mean, who would have thought, Mallory, when I first approached you in 23 at Jersey when we first met, invited you on the podcast, right? Yeah. Never forget that day, right? I was like,
I will
oh, there's
never.
Mallory, because I'm a fan, right? I was like, oh my God, there's Mallory. I gotta go
It
talk
was
to
my
her.
worst weekend too. It was awful.
I know it. Yeah, I know you had a rough weekend that weekend,
Yeah.
right? But
Yep.
this is what I'm gonna say. It shows who you are as a person, knowing that weekend didn't go the way you wanted, but you still had the time to be happy and put on that
Of course.
positive energy and talk to me and hugs and do the podcast and all that, right? But that what I'm saying is that speaks volumes of who you are as a person outside of the track too, as well.
Mhm.
And that's very important.
Yeah.
Because we know in this industry there's some fake people too as well,
Mhm.
right? But we're not going
Yep.
to talk about that, right? I always say, listen, within our beautiful circus, we always have those clowns, right? But
Yep.
we're the only
Yeah.
circus where the clowns got to pay to act,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So
It's true. Yeah. Yeah. I had, it was overall a positive year. There definitely was some interesting things, but yeah, someone at some point throughout my racing tried to tell me that I was mean in front of my mom. And my mom, I swear, my mom was going to jump over the table and punch
deck
her.
them.
And I was like, okay, like it literally was like, no, you're mean. And I was like, when? Like, I mean, sometimes I have bad days, but so does everybody, right? But like, man, it was funny. So now our joke is always like, Mallory, you're so mean. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah.
That's going to be the name of this podcast when I put out there. Mallory, you're so mean. That's exactly what I'm
mean.
going to name it. So mean. I'm writing that down right now so I don't forget. Mallory is so mean. I love it. It's funny. Oh my God.
Yeah, you just have to laugh, It's like
You do.
it definitely like for me, we talked about a little bit about the judgment of like other people and not everybody's gonna like you. And like one of the things I've always struggled with is like one of my faults is that I really care about what people think about me, right? Like I've
Me
cared a
too.
lot for a
Yeah.
long time to my own detriment. Like I just want people to like me. I want people to have a good impression, like all these positive things. And so sometimes it's just like it gets too much for me to like I think about that a lot. And so I've had to work on it a lot, too, with like even now recently with like the OnlyFans deal. Like when I posted about that, it was just like internally, I was just like, oh my God, people are gonna judge me for this thing. Like it doesn't really matter though, right? Like it's like, hey, like, we want sponsorship to keep the sport alive. We're bringing them into the sport. Like there's nothing wrong with it.
Mm-mm.
And the judgment of it is like, okay, Josh Herron's an OnlyFans athlete. They don't think the same thing about him than they would about me. And that's okay, right? Like there's nothing wrong with it. But yeah, it's definitely like I've had to learn a lot about like letting that stuff roll off and be like, all right, just keep being me. It'll all be okay.
I find that I still work on myself hard when it comes to that too. I'm a victim of my own head, let's just say, right?
Yeah,
We
right.
all are to a sense. I find that now it's easier said than done still, but it makes me better and happier to learn to let go of things that I can't
Mhm.
control and
Totally. Yeah.
focus on the
Circle
things
of
that I
control.
can
Yeah.
control, right? But
Yep.
it's a challenging task every day too,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
But once you, I guess, make peace with yourself in your own mind, like, look, this is
Mhm.
just absolutely out of my control.
Yeah.
You're happier, right?
Totally.
And then it don't bother you as much anymore because you're like, I let that
Yeah.
shit go. Like,
Yeah.
get out of here.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
go ahead.
Oh no, you're good. Go for it.
I was gonna say 2025. When does the season start again? When is the first round?
The first round is in Assen, April 11th through the 13th. And we have required testing at Cremona the weekend before. So we're testing the 3rd and the 4th at Cremona. So everybody in the championship would be testing there.
I love it. I love it. So, obviously you're going to bring home the title this year for us over here in America. No added pressure, Mallory, right? None. I don't want you to feel any extra pressure.
Anna's not in it anymore. So,
Oh, yeah. Right. Anna's not in it. So
Mhm.
maybe I have a chance
Maybe
now,
I have
right?
a chance.
Oh, I got it. She
Yeah.
is, I had the opportunity. I met Anna at MotoGP, man, was it 2017 or 18? And she was absolutely, I didn't realize how short she was.
She makes me look like a giant. Like that picture I have of me standing next to her in my suit makes me look like I'm huge.
It's
And I'm like,
hilarious.
I'm 5'5" and like 130 pounds, like pretty average. And like literally sitting next to her, she's just like beep. So
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm looking down. I was like, "Hey, what is up?" Like, it's same thing with Danny Production. Same thing with my
oh
man
yeah.
Sammy Halbert, right? He's
Oh yeah.
he's short too,
Yeah.
but man, he
Yeah.
is absolutely. Listen, when he gets on that flat track bike, it's
Oh yeah.
it's such a beautiful motion and poetry. Everybody
Yeah.
brings their own unique riding style. You
Yeah.
do too, right? You, from Jamie, from Alicia, from everybody.
Mhm.
You have your own style and element you bring, and every one of them is like this beautiful picture that you
Hmm.
guys paint when you're on the bike, and
Yep.
it's absolutely amazing to see, because if you really pay attention, you see where one rider is stronger than the other rider, but then
Hmm.
as the lap goes, you figure out, okay, she's stronger here than she is. She can make up some
Totally.
time here, and then you
Yeah.
guys are pretty much equal here. So now it's
Hmm.
a chess game in your mind on where I can outbreak her, how, and when
Totally.
I do at this certain corner, how am I going to stay in front of her so she can't come back on the
Hmm.
inside of the next corner, and yada yada. It's such a beautiful thing to see. I
Yep.
freaking love it.
Yeah.
And then we got Alyssa. What is up,
Lissy.
Alyssa? She says, "Meow." I love it. Oh my god,
Oh, cute.
she is awesome. And then we got Jeff says, "Cheers to a great season. So cool."
Thanks, Jeff.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, how do you know Jeff?
I can't remember where I met him, but he actually just reached out recently about doing like a video documentary series thing, for some racing stuff. So we're gonna try to do some video stuff at some point, probably at the Ridge. I just felt bad because I'm so swamped right now. I was like, hey man, like I haven't packed and I'm leaving for Europe for a month and a half, and like I gotta pack and still book where we're staying when we get there and how that's gonna work. And so like I'm a little panicked right now because I'm like, oh yeah, I got a lot of things that I gotta figure out, but. Um,
So,
so at some point.
is there going to be a Netflix series on Mallory Dobbs coming out in this whole championship?
There was supposed to be a Netflix series last year. So we actually had video stuff in the pits last year about it. And I think they're still looking for funding because I guess that's how documentaries work.
Yeah.
And so they did do something on the championship. It'll be interesting if it comes out because there's a lot of stuff on there. But uh, yeah, so there was one. We'll see what happens. But yeah, nothing that serious. We'll do something small, but we're going to try to do some video stuff. So.
I asked because I heard a rumor going around that they actually had one, that they were creating a Netflix series on it, and I think it would be
It
absolutely
did.
amazing.
Yeah.
Anything we can do to grow our sport like that is
Hmm.
just nothing but plus plus plus.
Yeah.
And I hear I hear Slack and people reach out to me like, how do you feel about OnlyFans sponsoring, Moto America
Hmm.
and all these riders around the world? I'm like, dude, I think it's
Hmm.
fantastic, right?
Yeah.
There is a stigma, obviously, on
Totally.
what it was when it started, but you can't
A little late for them to try to fix that, but
forget that, right? It's
yeah.
fine. It is what it is, but
Yeah.
we're just grateful that we have those outside sponsorships coming in, bringing
It's
money in, and
mhm.
helping support you and pay for your journey, because
Yeah.
it's super expensive, especially when you go overseas.
Totally. And I mean, like the thing about OnlyFans is like, yeah, they're trying to change the stigma and just be a more content creation site. And I think the cool part about it is it gives us a platform to create, to earn more money, not only from the sponsorship through OnlyFans, but also to have a platform to be able to like publish our media and kind of make it more exclusive. So like if people really do want to be fans, you can have like some things be paid per view and some things not. You can do exclusive videos on there first. Like it is a lot more work for me, right? Because it's like now I feel like a little bit like we talked about it, a little bit more obligated. Like I have to actually produce content because it's part of my contract, right? Um, but it's really cool to be able to say like, oh, I got like, OnlyFans is probably my biggest sponsor I've ever had, right? Like brand wise, right? Like it's such a big brand. And it's like, I'm like thinking about it, I'm like, okay, like I got sponsored by OnlyFans. And it's hard to like be not hardened to that because we spend so much money all the time. But it is cool, and, like, yeah, it's OnlyFans, it's a little bit more of, like, like, a little bit more of a taboo thing, but, like, they wanna get involved in the sport, and why wouldn't we let them, and use that because it only benefits other people when we bring more eyes to the sport. And, like, I
100%.
don't I don't know, like, my thing is that, like, what I can talk about sponsorship stuff all day, but, like, one of the things that I get upset about is that, like, people it's a scarcity mindset of sponsors in the industry, right? Where everybody thinks there's not enough sponsors, but then, like, they come after a sponsor you already have. Like, they go around and they look at all the people in the paddock and they're like, "Ooh, that sponsor looks like a good one," and then they go message that sponsor. And it's like, instead of looking internal to our sport and trying to take a sponsor from someone else or whatever, why don't you bring in a different brand that's new and exciting, right? Because that's what keeps our sport alive, right? Like bringing Arch, like Corey Alexander does an amazing job of bringing in sponsors and cross selling to sponsors and stuff. And I've talked to him about it, but like he brought in like Arch Motorcycles is now making a race bike for super hooligans. Like how cool is that, right? And like Keanu Reeves is just hanging out in the garage at Daytona with everybody else. Like that is so cool. And can you imagine the eyes that are now coming to our sport because, you know, they're posting all these videos about it and they're making a documentary and like that is so cool. Like that's going to keep our sport alive. That's what brings more people in. So like
Uh,
people just need to start like thinking outside the box instead of being like, well, Doreen sponsors Mallory, so I'm just going to message Doreen. Like Okay. You know,
Good
like
luck.
it's just weird to me. Like it's just so weird. And like it's just a different mentality, you know?
It is, and speaking of John Wick, Keanu Reeves, Johnny Utah, right? It's he's my favorite actor, always has been since I was a little kid, and to finally get the picture with him was just
Mm-hmm.
one off my bucket list, right? And
Yep.
it was weird because when I approached him, I was so nervous, like more nervous than I've ever been in my life, talking to
Totally.
anybody here,
Totally.
even Valentina Rossi. Like, I'm like, "What's up, LA?" But with John Wick, I was
You're
like,
like,
"Okay, Simcoe, you got to keep this together, right? You got to bring it down, just bring it
yeah.
on down."
Yeah.
So yeah, I approached him, was like, I was like, "Johnny Utah," and he started laughing. He's like, "Man, you're taking it way back." I was like, "Dude, listen, I got to cut my fanboy out. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah.
It'd be an honor. It's an honor to finally meet you. You don't mind if
Yeah.
I get a picture, right?" And he's like, "Sure." And then, of course, me, I go on my whole pitch. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Simcoe. I have a podcast called Pin to Gas. It'd be an honor to have you on, and let's
Yeah.
talk all thing motorcycles, forget the movies,
Mm-hmm.
and so he calls his manager over there and he takes all my information down. I give him 2
Yeah.
stickers and they said that they'll be in touch.
Yeah.
So
There you go. I love it. I love it. I remember the first time I went to Chuckwalla, like 3 years ago now, 4 years ago, 2021, I think. Or 2022, but I went to Chuckwalla for the first time and we were out there like member day. So it was like Wednesday. So there's not a lot of people there. And he was riding in one of the other groups and he was hanging out with the Alpenstars guys and stuff. But they were just hanging out in the pits. And I did the same thing. I like skipped my session and I ran over there like in my suit. And I was like, I have to get it. So then he comes in from his session. I'm being like the awkward girl, like standing there, like, and he's like taking his helmet off, and like whatnot. And I'm like, hi. And I was like totally just like fangirl. And like I don't typically do that to anybody, but it was like, it's Keanu Reeves. Like, come on. And so I like went up to him and I was like, "Hi, I'm Mallory." And he like goes to shake my hand. He's like, "Keanu." And I was like, "I know." Like he was like introducing himself to me like I didn't know. Like, and then we talked about racing and stuff. And he asked me if I was a racer and all these things. And like, it was super cool. And then I took a picture with him and same thing. I posted it. And it was like, it was so cool to be like, because there's so many people that are fans of him too. But like, he's just a normal dude, right? And it's like people post about him all the time. It says like, he just hangs out with everybody and super chill and like it's real. Like he hangs out at Chuckwalla now with Corey and them, and like it's rad. And so
it,
it's like, he's just a guy that loves motorcycles just like the rest of us. And he's just a goofy guy, right? Like the interview they did, like the preview show or whatever at Daytona, and he was like, they're like, why now? Like, why are you guys getting into racing now? And he's like, because motorcycles. Like, like he doesn't have an answer. Like he's just like, I don't know, because we wanted to.
I love
But
it.
it's
Yeah,
cool.
it was crazy too because I remember when me and him had that. I was in the presence of the goat, right? So to speak. It's like it's almost like time just slowed completely down and nothing was happening around us.
Yeah.
But as soon as I turned around and walked away, everything sped back up again, and I was like, I said to myself, I was like, did that really just fucking happen? Like, did they really just take all my information down? Like, I immediately ran it because my dad came with me. And I was like, bro, you'll never believe this. I showed him a picture. He said, holy shit. I was like, dude, he's right over there. Like, yeah, awesome. And speaking of, sponsorship is such a bad word, right? I like to call it friendships, right? Going out there trying to find,
Partnerships,
yeah, different friendships out in the industry. And, we speak on OnlyFans. I think it's important that everybody in the paddock reach out to whoever, right? Netflix or just whoever, right? And it's important for our sport to grow.
Mhm.
And to have that outside sponsorships and the stigma, I think too, within our sport is there's a bubble of sponsorships that we're only supposed to go after,
Mhm.
right? And it's like we're fishing out of the same pond, and the pond's this
Mhm.
big, right? And
Yeah.
the people in
Yeah.
it's little, right? And they can only give
Mhm.
so much out,
Totally.
and you said it correctly, right? It's everybody goes after the same people all the time. We need that outside, and with the whole OnlyFans thing, creating your own content and having that paid subscription, and like, hey, if you could do something simple like I'll give everybody a birthday wish, $5 or what, something simple
Mhm.
like that, and it brings fans to you too as
Mhm.
well, lifetime fans, right?
Yeah,
That's why
totally.
I'm a big support of. It's such a great idea. Like all my friends out there in BSB, they have a club, right? Like a
Mhm.
Lizzie Club
Yep.
45 or whatever it is.
Yep.
You sign up, you send 50 pounds or whatever it is. You get
Mhm.
a t-shirt or a hat or a signed knee puck.
Totally.
And then during the weekend, they'll do a drawing. If you
Mhm.
whatever number you pick, you might win whatever it is, another
Mhm.
hat, t-shirt, and they
Yeah.
put your name on the bike. That's also a way that I see missing in our paddock that's easily achievable for every
Mhm.
rider out there, whether you're Talent Cup now to Corey Alexander, right, so to
Yep.
speak, or you even,
Yep.
right? It's a way to, because fans of the sport, they show up, I'm gonna go meet Mallory, right? But if they feel like they're actually part of your team
Mhm.
and your name's on your bike, it makes a world of a difference. Now
Oh,
you got
totally.
fans that
Totally.
are in for life. It don't matter what you do, they're
Mhm.
100% down, right?
Yep.
Which is a
Yep.
great thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's more about the partnerships, right? It's like, how do we help each other, right? It's all about business. Like, ultimately, it's like we're running a business. As much as some people don't want to see that, I've had multiple people tell me, like, wow, it must be nice to be a girl because you're a minority in this sport and it's so much easier for you to get sponsorship. And I'm like, no, it's like, it is easier because I am a minority. Sure, there's more eyes on me, maybe, but I have to do things 10 times better than men in the sport because that's how I get taken seriously. And that's the fact. Like, there's somebody that talks about it, Megan, she does a bunch of classes about sponsorship and marketing and stuff. She does like drag racing. But she talks about it that way where she's like, yeah, she's like, it's not any easier for me to get it just because you guys think that. I dated a guy that said that, that's like, oh, it must be nice to be a girl. And I was like, well, that's kind of rude, and
Yeah.
I've worked my ass off to get here. And so it's like, it's the mentality of like, well, I'm a racer, therefore I deserve it. And it's like, well, you don't. Like, no, we don't deserve anything. Like, I don't deserve it. It's like I just worked for it. And, just because you're a racer and have good results doesn't necessarily mean that you deserve support either. And that's just the industry now. It's like there's not enough money to go around just to give people money just for being a good rider, unfortunately. So it's
No,
like now
you're
you got to
right.
be a good rider and a good personality, or just post a lot and get them eyeballs. Josh Heron and Brandon Posh do a really good job of being controversial sometimes, and that's just how they are. And it does bring a lot of people to have conversations about them. So
Yeah, I think it's great for the sport too when we have that rivalry, right? That's something I think we're also missing in the sport.
totally.
I love to see everybody friendly and caddy chatty and all, but we want that Jorge Lorenzo, Valentino Rossi uh
Right.
battles out, right? Where
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
talking trash, which
Yep.
at the end of the day, we're friends, right? But
Mhm.
we need that rivalry. It'll
Yep.
help boost our sport too as well,
Totally.
110%. And yeah, that's one thing I wanted to ask you, man. Being a proper mega female in our sport that's super, super fast, do you feel like the women of our sport has a certain stigma that they have to uphold too versus the men?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's automatically that people like it's really hard, right? Like, I have always described it as, I don't want someone to say, wow, you're pretty fast for a girl. I just want someone to go, wow, she's really fast. That's all. I don't want to be treated any differently of like, oh, you're just a girl and this is, you must be trying so hard, or, whatever it may be. Like, it's, yes, I'm a female and I will embrace that. I'm like not going to sit here and say I'm not a girl, but I don't want that stigma of like, oh, well, you either like, I have to always break the first impression of like when people first meet me, they're like, I'm the girlfriend. And then they're like, "Oh, you ride?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, like I race and blah blah blah." And then it's like, "Oh, okay." And then they're like, "Well, is she really a racer? Like, or is she just one of those like social media influencers that just like posts about riding a motorcycle?" And it's like, no. And so I've really prided myself in like what I've worked for to get where I am without posting like really like explicit pictures. And like people that do that, like I don't care. Like whatever you want to do. If you want to post, your body on social media, I don't care. But that's not something I want to do. I want people to be like, wow, she's fast. She really means it. Like she's doing the thing. But like that's what I've prided myself in doing. And then there's a lot of the other girls that do both. And so it's just like, you definitely have to like kind of break the first impression of, people what their thoughts are. And it's always hard because it's like being taken seriously in the sport is hard. Um,
It
and it's
is.
like I talk to girls all the time that show up to the racetrack and automatically guys are like flocking to like, oh, a new girl at the racetrack, and they're trying to be nice and help, but at the same time with the wrong intentions. And so it's pretty intimidating for girls, right? Because they like show up and they're like, wow, all these guys are being so nice to me. And I'm like, yeah, well, be careful, and it's like, and it just sucks because it's like, that's kind of sometimes what scares people away from the sport is like, well, they're
Yeah.
like, well, I'm not here to like meet men. I'm here to ride a motorcycle. Like,
Right.
and it's kind of what's wrong with our sport, but it's like, you have to have thick skin. You have to be able to like, you know, I don't know, like that's how I've described to people. Like you have to have thick skin and just kind of let things roll off. That doesn't matter, and be smart. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it's hard. It's definitely hard.
It is. That's I've had these conversations before, and how women get in our sport and they just feel totally uncomfortable. It should not be
Mhm.
that way at all, because you
Totally.
girls and women absolutely deserve to be in our sport.
Mhm.
I say this all the time, Mallory. I say, when you watch a female out there riding a bike, man, it's like you girls are so smooth compared to men. Like where we
Yeah.
grab the bike and we gotta fight it, and we're doing this and we're doing that, right? It's like
Right.
we gotta teach ourselves to be slow and smooth to be fast,
Mhm.
where you girls
Yep.
are just naturally, I guess it's the chemistry between man and woman. You guys are just so smooth in the way you just flow on the bike and transition and get on and
Mhm.
off the throttle. It's like, it's almost like you're not trying to be fast. I know you're really trying to be fast, but you make it look so smooth compared to
Mhm.
us
Right.
men out there. We're big
Right.
and burly and we got to do all that, right? So it's I think in our sport too, that sometimes it's hard for a man to accept that we can actually learn to ride a motorcycle fast from a woman, right?
Mhm.
Let's just be honest.
Totally.
It's a
Yeah.
stigma out there.
I see it all the
And
time because I'm a coach.
yeah, so, and I love talking about it, right? Because I feel like
Yeah.
the more people know about it, the more they'll comfortably be. And I don't want any female to come in our sport, whether it's your first track day or you're
Mhm.
just showing up to help a friend out. I don't want you girls to feel uncomfortable at all, because you're
Right.
not having fun. If you're not having fun, guess what? You're definitely not coming back. You say,
No.
forget that sport,
Yeah.
this and that or the other. So I
Mhm.
would love to see some type of change in our sport when it comes to the way the men of our sport approach
Mhm.
women in our sport too, as well,
Yeah.
so to speak, right?
Totally.
um
Yeah,
it's
we're actually like Two
yeah,
Fast Track Days has started like a new program this year that's like Chicks on Slicks. And so essentially like any girl that shows up to the track and wants to sign up for it is basically invited. And they'll have like track time sessions, either if there's enough girls, their own track time session, or they'll just have a female instructor with, a female like, marshal. And it'll just be a bunch of girls that get to ride together. And it's like I have done like all female track days before, and it is a really cool positive environment because girls can actually ask a lot of questions that they're too nervous to ask otherwise because they felt like it was a dumb question. And
yeah,
when it's like a bunch of girls around, they're like, oh, okay, I can ask this question and not be made feel like I'm stupid.
yeah,
And so it's a really cool positive environment. So I'm really hoping that kicks off. Jesse, who is commenting on here, and Stephanie are kicking that program off with Too Fast. And so I'll be at the events when I can, but obviously I'm a little busy. So but yeah, so we're definitely trying to make it a more positive learning environment for women. But yeah, people ask all the time, like, why aren't more women racers, or why don't more women ride? And I'm like, it's not something you can just like teach, like make people do. Like there's not a lot of women that want to do it, right? Automatically. Like it's just something that like it's scary for a lot of people, even men. And so it's like that's not nothing we do can really change that all the time, but we can make it a better environment for the people that do want to, right?
110%. And again, that would grow our sport too tremendously, right?
Hmm.
It's I love the fact that they started let me ask you this. Having an all women's championship, do you think it's harder for a woman to break out of that championship and transition into a all men's championship,
No.
so to speak? Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, it's definitely interesting because some of the girls want to only be in that championship, and then others want to move on and do other stuff, right? So, like, you see, like Anna this year doing Honda World Super Sport, right? And it's like, I think that that's like, I mean, ultimately for me, like, I would love to do World Super Sport if I ever thought I was capable enough. The women's championship for me is not the end all be all. And sometimes kind of how they phrase it with World Superbike is kind of that way, where they're like, this is the best thing that's going to happen for women's sports, and this is the ending. And it's like, well, I feel like some of us want to go do other stuff too. But some of the girls do want to just win the championship or just stay there, and they don't have any desire to do anything else other than do this championship. So there's a little bit of both. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of us girls, obviously, we all came from doing championships that were mixed genders because most of the women's championships are not as well attended. Um, so we're used to racing with both men and women, and I feel like the racing craft, like people ask me that all the time too, of like, how was the racecraft with all these girls? And it's like, well, I feel like most of the time it's good, but there's definitely like some people that are riding above their limits, and like you kind of see it. They're just riding around like, rah, with their hair on fire, and you're just like, oh, I don't want to ride around you. Um,
I'm gonna let her
but
exit the pits for 30 seconds before I go out
yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
before she takes me out. Oh wait, she did. Um, but
Damn
so
false neutral.
yeah, well, that one wasn't a false neutral.
I
She
know,
was
I know, I
very good on the bricks, and she was not.
know.
But yeah, it's definitely there definitely is a varying ranges of experience, and but racing against women is no different been racing against men. Like maybe the racecraft is a little bit different, but that's just an experience thing, not a gender thing. Like some of the stuff that I saw riding wise was just because these girls, some of them don't have as much experience. So that's just a fact. And like when you don't have a lot of racecraft experience, it's hard to have it, right? Like if you haven't been racing very long, there's no replacement for that. So
for sure, and with all the added pressure too, as well, being in the world championship, just I can
totally.
see where that could be a big mind, you know what, right? For somebody,
Yeah, totally.
yeah, it's man. Well, listen, Mallory, we're an hour and 10 minutes in this. This has been absolutely a lot of fun. I can't wait to sit back down with you in middle of the season or and do a recap of
Yeah,
how your whole
totally.
season's going. 110%. It's always good to see you. Are you going to be at the GP race at the end of the month?
No, because I'll be riding in Valencia.
Oh yeah, that's
I
right. You'll
was I
be.
was gonna go, and like I had like a World Tour bike was gonna get me a pass and everything, but I am gonna ride instead. So
I love it. I love
yeah.
it. Good stuff. Good stuff. So listen, I actually have 2 questions I want to ask you, and then we'll end the podcast. We'll do all our shout outs and all that. Now, are you going
Okay.
to have any merch this year?
Yeah, so we'll have a exclusive drop of merch with Support Moto Racing. They're gonna drop a specialty design at some point, so that'll be to be determined. And then I'm trying to work on a t-shirt design and stuff with Moto Steen, been a long time supporter of mine as well. So we're gonna try to come up with a design for that, and then I might also sell some team shirts. We'll see. So
Be awesome. Well, when your merch drops, make sure you text me because I'm absolutely gonna purchase a
for sure.
t-shirt from you,
Yeah.
110%. So one thing I do want to ask you is right now, and these are just oddball questions, right? If you were to plan a bank robbery, who would you invite to rob the bank with you?
Oof. Who would I invite? I don't know. I feel like I'd invite Andrew
Of
because
course, Andrew's a given,
I
right?
feel like we'd make a good team.
He would be the driver for sure, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. If you listen, Mallory, after you hang up your leathers and you're a team manager and you have your own team, right? So let's say we're in Moto America, you had your own super sport or
Mhm.
super bike team, right? What is the one manufacturer you would have, and who are the 2 current riders in our Moto America you'd have on your team?
Oof. Um, let's see. Okay, who would be my manufacturer? I think it's tough. I would say probably Yamaha. If I was doing like a superbike team, like if I could do superbike, I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna like try to beat attack. No, that probably would never
You're
happen.
going
No.
down, attack.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I mean, I obviously am a diehard Cowie fan. I always have been. I still have my Cowie kind of. And then I have
Kind of.
a
Hold up. What do you mean, kind of? What's the kind of?
kind of because that bike got loaded up for the Daytona 200 as a spare, and then we needed the engine. So it's kind of a motorcycle that I'm supposed to maybe get back. I don't know. So to be determined on that one.
It's a donation, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, I actually kind of want money for that. But
Just a little bit, right? Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, I kind of have that, and then I have a KX250 that I bought last April. So Andrew and I bought dirt bikes, which I've only ridden it like twice since I bought it. But so yeah, I don't know. I mean, Yamaha definitely has been what I've been riding lately, so it'd be cool to like do that. I mean, the R9 is a really cool platform, and I'm excited to see what those do this year. So like, it'd be cool, to try the whole R9 thing. But um, yeah, and then 2 riders. Oof. I feel like I'd have Skoltz and Peterson. Unless Andrew was like still racing, and then Andrew could be on my team. But I don't think he'd want to be on my team. He'd probably want to be on a different team.
I don't blame him, right? Be like, no,
He's
Mallory,
like, I
I'm
don't want you to
good.
be my boss. That's weird.
Right. Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, I live with you. I definitely don't want. No, I'm good. I love it.
Something we didn't touch on that I was really exciting this year was we did the Intercontinental Games last November.
How was
So I
that?
never thought that I'd be teammates with my boyfriend ever again or racing against my boyfriend at any point. But it was really cool that we got to like ride our sevens together in Jerez. We got to go to Spain. He was a last minute change because Rocco got hurt. And yeah, it was super fun to be able to go and like actually be teammates with him. So yeah, anyway. The
That's
Intercontinental
awesome.
is really cool. They're doing that it's a biennial thing, so it's every 2 years, and then they're talking about rotating locations. So there is conversations about maybe doing it in like another country, right? So it's not always going to be in Spain. So maybe one year it's in America, like Laguna or Coda or something. So it's kind of a cool thing. Like it'll be interesting to see what they do for the next one, but if I get invited back. But it was a really cool experience to be able to like race with, Blake Davis and we had Hayden Schultz and it was cool because it was kind of validating for them to like come over and they were like, wait, these bikes don't have steering stabilizers? And I was like, no. And they were like, what? And they were just like, the bikes over here there were way different than the bikes they race in the Twins Cup, right? It's like those bikes are super bikes. These were stock. So it was really validating for them to be like, wow, this is really hard. I was like, I know.
Welcome to my world, right? Yeah, welcome to my
I've been doing this all
world.
year. Welcome. Yeah.
I love it. I
So,
love it. Yeah, you're right. I totally forgot about the Intercontinental thing
yeah,
you guys did. Yeah, that's.
it's fun. I got this gold helmet. It's like my
I
little.
know. I see. Oh, you got to bring it over here so we can see it.
No,
Let's
yeah.
check it
So
out.
it's pretty cool. Like I didn't realize that we were getting trophies, but it says like first
I
woman
love it.
super sport.
It's a nice helmet.
Yeah, so
Love
we had
it.
to actually wear like they put us all in their own gear, so everybody had to wear the same gear and everything, and then we had to wear these. So I think it's called Aero helmets, but Butters at KYT told me it's Iro. Iro is how you say it. I don't know,
I would
but
said it the same way as you. It's Arrow.
Aero, like
Yeah.
so. But yeah. So anyway, that was pretty cool.
So
Fun.
your bike design this year, obviously, it's going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
to
we've
see
got
it.
oh, the kit looks so good this year. So this is obviously our new helmet for this year, and blue and pink are kind of our colors, so we're still sticking with the teal. We're gonna do as much teal as we can, so you'll be able to see us. And then, yeah, the suit looks good. I just got that from Revit the other day, and it all fits and everything, so that's good. We're getting some shirts designed by Lieto. So those will be so we got shirts and jackets from Lieto that are getting printed, and which are local to California. And then, yeah, everything's looking pretty good. So,
I love it.
yeah, it's gonna be lots more blue this year for the Team Killers. I'm excited.
I love it. And I'm a huge fan of pink anyway. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
absolutely It's pink's such a great color, right? It
It's
stands
good,
out.
yeah.
It's vibrant, and
Yeah.
it goes with a lot of colors too. Surprisingly, you
Yeah.
can match pink up with a lot of different colors. You're like, I've never thought that would go that
Yeah,
well
I was like,
together.
this is definitely like, I mean, it's like very bright pink, like
I love
very
it.
bright,
Love
but
it.
it turned out so good. So
It's a good looking helmet.
yeah, Sam did a really good job. So I'm excited for what we come, and then we might do a different helmet design for the Ridge round. We'll see if we have time and stuff, but
Right? You got to have a unique helmet. So when are they
Mhm.
going to come out with the replica helmet of Mallory Dobbs?
Somebody actually asked me that. They were like, "Hey, can I sell those helmets if we do replicas?" And I was like, "Well, this one's a wrap, so like I don't know how many wraps the guy's gonna want to do. So we might maybe do like I got to do one for a sponsor, Support Motor Racing. He wants a replica, and then I might do another one maybe to like auction off or something. I don't know. Maybe do that, but
Man, I need to hit Brandon Cray 2 up, man, and we need to get a Mallory
I
rep
know.
out
Yeah,
there.
just send them a message, be like, "Hey, we should do a replica of that. You guys can make it, right?" And be like,
Yeah, for sure. I'm friends with
It
Brandon for sure.
Yeah, the problem with like the vinyl wrap is that like if we were to do replicas, it'd be so much money, and it's like, do people really want to
Yeah.
spend that much money on a helmet? With you know what I mean? Because it's like the wrap itself is a couple $100, and then the helmet is, and it's like, then if we go through the trouble, like how much do we want to charge, and like who's gonna want to pay $2,000 for one of my helmets? Let's face it.
Yeah. But that's what I love about KYT because you get a FIM homologated helmet for less than $1,000. I mean,
Yeah, their helmets are
you get
great.
and they're awesome. And then you go
Yeah,
to like Alpine Star, they're what, $2,000. The
yeah,
AGVs it's just
hmm
ridiculous. I
yeah,
feel that part of our sport too needs to come down in cost too as well.
hmm
Everything's just outrageous. Who
yeah.
wants to spend $2,000 on a helmet? Not me. Knowing if you go out there and you
No,
crash in it one time, it's
no, yeah,
done.
it's
Then you got to
done.
fork
Yeah.
out another $2,000. It's like,
Yeah, the new NZ races because like they have the KX1. The new KX1 is like it's sleek, it's light, it like fits really well. The fuel division's great, and even their like lower model helmet, the NZ
NZ
is like
race.
the NZ race is like those. That was the one that I was using before the KX1, and I still have a couple of those, and they're also great. Like, and they're so much cheaper. If somebody wants like a good economical helmet that's gonna keep your head safe, like, you know. But there is definitely like everybody's like, oh, you gotta have the most expensive helmet because those are the best ones, and it's like, yes, you want a good helmet, but I don't think that the most expensive ones are the best ones. Like, it's like one of those things. But
It is, and I feel like leather suits have come a long way as far
mhm,
as technology and safety. I think
totally,
that's an area that's missing in helmet design too as well. I mean,
yeah,
I feel like the inners are basically the same. The shell construction's basically the
totally,
same. They change a
yeah,
little bit, but we need to have that next revolutionary step in in motorcycle safety. Because I think one thing that, you know, is missed upon a lot in our sport too is concussions. Concussions is such a big deal, right? And having your head hit the ground and you know, not know when you are for a second, or have to get your thoughts together, and then 30 minutes later you're back out there doing it again, right? It's and I get it, right? But it's something that I feel like that's also why, you know, BSB, if you reckon you have a concussion, you're out automatically for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
No, even if you're running for the championship, I'm sorry, you got to miss for 2 weeks, and you go for testing and scans to make sure you're okay. And I would love to see that across the board.
I agree. And even not in the racing scene, like even just at track days, right? Like we saw some guy get like crash really bad at Chuckwalla and like couldn't remember where his helmet. He's like, "Where's my helmet? Where's my helmet?" And he was hanging on to his helmet, like he had it in his hand. And he was just like freaking out, like he just didn't know where his helmet was. And then literally the next day, he was riding at the track day with the same helmet that he crashed in that was obliterated. And no one checked, like, because we don't check gear or anything, right? And he'd already paid for the 2 days, so no one really rechecked anything. And then next thing you know, he's like riding, and we're like, "Hey, like this guy shouldn't be riding. He just couldn't even remember where his helmet was yesterday." And they were like, "Oh well," and it's like, that's not
What do you
safe
mean?
for
Oh
anybody.
well, yeah. Like, what are you talking about? Oh well,
They were like,
black
"Well, we
flag
didn't."
his
They were like,
ass
"Well,
and
we
get him
didn't
off the track.
know."
Yeah.
We were like, "We didn't know, and we didn't check, and this, that, and the other." And it's like, and people get so mad when they're like, "Oh, well, you know, they're checking gear and putting their fingers in holes in my suit, and that's not fair." And I'm like, "Do you like your body? Do you like being alive? Like, that's why we do it. It's not like we're sitting here trying to make it so you don't ride. Like, it's not like we're sitting here going, we don't want you to be here. It's like we just want you to be safe." But
I mean, that's absolutely, you know, it's because you hear, you know, horror stories of somebody getting a bad concussion, and it's just it changes your whole world, right?
Totally. I would rather break a bone than get another concussion.
110%. You know,
like I got knocked out a couple years ago. I like hit a guy. My brake lever guard didn't work. Well, we like collided in the chicane at the ridge, and my brake lever hit his fairing and endoed me. Like I went whoop straight over the bars, and the bike landed on top of me, and I was knocked out cold. And I like woke up. I didn't remember anything until I woke up in the ambulance, and then they asked me where I was, and I started crying because I couldn't remember. And they were like, "That's totally normal." But for like weeks, like I slept for 2 days straight, where I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna like go to work," and they were like, "Well, one, you have a brain injury, you can't do that." And they were like, "You don't need to go to work," and I couldn't even focus. And I was like, "Well, I'm gonna take a nap," and then I like slept all day. And then for weeks, I was having like these weird like emotional like mood swings where I'd be like, I'd drop my pen on the ground and start crying, you know, something stupid like that, right? It was just like gnarly. And I was like, no, I'd rather break a bone than go through that again. Like the brain injury thing is no joke.
It's not, you know, and it's something that I wish they would, you know, take more seriously at all levels of racing, even club. You're right on that.
Totally. Yeah.
Just, you know, for the well-being of everybody, because it's super important. You know, we don't want to see somebody get seriously. I mean, look at a lot of the football players, man. They take it on the head, and when they're done, it's like, who is this guy now, right? They're completely different and changed because of that. So
totally.
Yeah, we need a next revolution in helmet safety for sure. Not saying that they're not any good now, because they're absolutely amazing. But we need to have, you know, we have air vests now, right? So I feel like the future is going to be that right now, even in Moto America, if you compete more than, I want to say 3 rounds or 5 rounds in Moto, you have to have an air suit, right? Which is, and people are like, oh my God, it adds all this extra cost to suit. Absolutely. It really don't cost a whole lot more. Especially if you're getting a custom suit. It's really not. It's maybe $200-$300 at the most, you know.
Well, World Superbike requires them. So like we had to have airbag vests and chest protectors. And if you weren't wearing, as soon as you got into Park for May, they checked your airbag and your chest protector to make sure you're wearing it. And if you weren't wearing a chest protector, you got disqualified.
Yep.
Because there was a couple girls that like forgot to put them in, and then they were like, "Oh, you're just cute, dirty cute. Your time doesn't count." It's like, so they're pretty serious about that. Yeah, they're pretty serious about all that.
It should be, right? I mean, because you guys are out there and girls are just giving it the full beans, as Chris Lilligard always says, right? Give it the full beans and putting your life out there on the line. You know, people don't. There's a stigmata too of motorcycles are so dangerous, right? Listen, car racing is dangerous. Jumping off an airplane is dangerous, right? Driving to work is dangerous.
Yeah, I was gonna say driving on the freeway is dangerous.
Especially when you look beside you and the person driving is like this, and you're like, bro, what are you doing? You know, we see it all the time. So it's I see it as, you know, people that commit to whatever sports they're playing or participating in, they already accept the risk, right?
Totally.
And they give it their all to it.
Yep.
If something happens, at least they went out doing what they love to do, right? I
Mhm.
mean, how many of us would love to go out doing what we love to do, except
Yeah.
for how we may go out? Nobody knows, right? So,
Right. Right.
it's I don't, when things like that happen, I don't feel sorry for the individual. I know that's probably bad to say, and people are going to take this the wrong way. But again, I just said it. It's they went out doing what they love to do,
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe everybody wants to, live longer and all this. It's
Mhm.
I think it's most harder on the families, obviously, that get left
Oh,
behind.
totally.
But
Yeah. Yep.
I'm gonna use the TT as an example, right? It's the most dangerous race we have in the
Mhm.
world, and I hate to use that word dangerous. But we accept the facts of what could happen, and the families do too, the wives do too,
Mhm.
right? they
Yep.
they
Yep.
accept what might be, right, or what
Mhm.
could be. So um it's such a beautiful sport. It's such
Mhm.
a beautiful to see people give it their all the time, and be fully committed and give it the
Mhm.
full beans, right?
Yeah.
It's
Give it the full
give
beans.
it the full beans. It's absolutely amazing to see, and
Mhm.
I think that once you start going out there on the track and you're not having fun anymore, and you
Yeah.
notice this wall being close and you never noticed that wall being close before, that's
Right.
when it's
Right.
time to,
That's when you're like, "Oh, no."
yeah, that's what,
Yep.
maybe it's time to step back and maybe just do a little club
Mhm.
racing or become a
Yeah.
team owner like
Yep.
Mallory, right? And have your own team.
We'll
Let's
see if that ever
go.
happens, but, just planting the seed there, you never know.
One thing that I love too, Mallory, we're going to get off here in a mix. We're almost an hour and 30 in this, is that when racers hang up their leather, some just completely disappear from the sport, and
Mhm.
you never hear from them again, because social
Yep.
media is such a big thing. In the old school, like, you don't never see no post from Doug Chandler, you don't see no post from Miguel Duhamel, right, or Steve Rapp,
Yeah.
or any of them guys. Now social media is so important, especially to get friendships, not sponsorships, in our sport.
Mhm.
um I love to see that when people do hang up their leathers, that they give back to the sport,
Mhm.
as much, and they're as much involved in it as they was when they were racing.
Right.
That is
Right.
such a beautiful thing to see. It's like
Totally.
it's like you see the beginning of their career, and then at the end of their career, and then when they stay involved, it's like this big full circle thing,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Because they're helping somebody groom the next world
Mhm.
champion, or the next
Totally.
somebody going to Spain or whatever.
Mhm.
So yeah, Mallory, listen, this has been a lot of fun, and one thing I want people to take away from this too is if you work hard, you can achieve anything you want to do, and it's not out of this world for us
Nope.
Americans to make it over there to Spain. Just ask Mallory; she's
Yep.
absolute proof of it. So absolutely can happen,
Mhm.
110%. So I'm proud of you, Mallory. I can't wait to see
Thank
you
you.
bring home that trophy this year, right? Let's go. You like that, did the Gatorade bottle? Let's go. Yeah, I'll be following you, watching you, obviously sending you texts. Let's go. Let's make it happen. So I can't wait. Tell Andrew I said hello to as well.
Will
I'm
do.
still waiting on for him to come on the podcast too.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally.
but yeah, Mallory, listen, I'm gonna give all my shout outs. I'm gonna let you end the podcast and give all your shout outs. So first thing, as I always say, is thank you so much for everybody that watches and likes this podcast and subscribes. If it's people, seriously, it's people like Mallory and all my friends that come on here is why I'm able to do what I do, right? If I'm sitting here talking by myself and I didn't have no friends come on here, I wouldn't be where I am. Seriously, right? So it's because of you, and I just want to thank you and everybody else that comes on here and that watches and comments and sends me messages. It's overwhelming sometimes. I get overwhelmed emotionally from people reaching out. It's an absolute honor. Big shout out to Next Level Financial, bisontrack.com for your full custom suit, people. It's 2025. Treat yourself. You need this full custom suit. Mallory, I tell everybody, take that old suit you have that you bought off the rack, make a purse or a backpack, give it to your mom or your wife or your kid or
Yep.
something. Treat yourself. It's
Treat
2025,
yourself.
people. You deserve that custom suit. It is a game changer, Mallory.
Mhm.
Absolutely game changer. So big shout out to Chef Eats. You guys can go to Chef Eats, use the discount code Pin the Gas for some money off the most proper mega meals, right? When we go to the track, Mallory, it's always a grill or a charcoal grill or gas grill. You already got a generator, just bring a microwave, throw Chef Eats
Mhm.
in it, and boom, there you go. Yeah,
I love that.
and their food's amazing too as well. Big shout out to TST Industries in Florida. Everybody can go to the Clothing Kings. My son's been coloring this. The clothingkings.co.uk, and you get all your Pendergast merch over there in the UK. Big shout out to them. Big shout out to Superbike Supply. Do it for Dad, my man Eric. SFL Mini GP in Jersey and Florida. Big shout out to Julian Carrere, which is starting his in the British Talent Cup this year. Let's go, Choo-choo. Big shout out to my man Jake Marsh and the whole RD racing crew out there in the UK. Vet2Track. If I have any veterans out there, please go to vet2track.com. Check out their website. His motto is curing PTSD one lap at a time. His program is absolutely amazing. So if anybody wants to get involved, please reach out to me or go to the website, or if you just can't get in touch with them, get in touch with me and I'll make it happen for you. Big shout out to Flying Eyes Optics for all your sunglass needs, 64-degree racings for all your undersuits, because Tate makes amazing undersuits. He sent me a 2-piece custom undersuit. At one point on that too, Mallory, I tell everybody, don't show up to your track day or race weekend event with one undersuit. Please do everybody a favor. Bring more undersuits than you do underwear. Trust me. We will thank you later, right? We don't want you to walk around the paddock approach and we're like, good God almighty, right? Yeah, woo. You need like 5 showers and take your undersuit and wash that while you're at it in there.
Just shower with the undersuit.
There you go, right? Big shout out to if you're in Pennsylvania. Big shout out to Carnes Performance, best dealership in Pennsylvania. Ghetto Customs for all your custom body works. Big shout out to KYT Helmets Americas, which Mallory, she absolutely wears. K-Tech Suspension, my man Birch, Kendall, and Dakari, ready to race in North Carolina. Coleman Power Sports here in Virginia. If anybody ever wanted to do a track day at a MotoGP track, look no further than McLeo Escapes Track and Tour. I need everybody to go to Road Racing World. Donate to the Road Racing World Fund, which is for our air fences. It's imperative that we have them out there. Even if it's $5 you donate, thank you guys so much for doing it. And girls, we need it, trust me. And if you're at the track, Ulrich is always there. And it's not every track. I think he does a 2-up rides. There's only certain ones. But if you show up and he's got his 2-up bike, I forget what the minimum donation is. I think it's $350 or $400. You get a 2-up ride with the legend Chris Ulrich on the back of a GSXR. Have you ever taken that ride on the back with Ulrich?
Not with Ulrich. I've rode on the back with JP.
Okay. I'm sure it's the same experience. It's like, holy shit, let me off of this thing. Are you kidding me right now? Yeah. Absolutely amazing. So big shout out to Road Racing World and the whole N4 crew. They're absolutely amazing. Big shout out to STG, Brian Van and Max Van. For all your graphics needs, I got a couple of my friends down here. One of them's Dripping Wet. Chris is absolutely amazing. REB Graphics and my buddy Gus Rodeo, GRG Graphics. Big shout out to Aliki on her Venom undersuits. They're absolutely amazing undersuits. She actually sent me Johannes Fogger, his actual undersuit. It was
nice.
It's I try to put it on. It's an extra medium. I'm like, I can't wear this thing, right? I had to. I look like a little T-Rex walking around. It's hilarious. All my friends out there in the UK, you can go to mike.edwards.com. V121pro.com too. Mike the Spike Edwards, he's an absolutely 6-time BSB legend. He does personal coaching too as well. Big shout out to BTR, Build Train Race. It's one of my favorite programs in Moto America. And Mallory, I asked myself this question: if we can have a program like BTR in Moto America, why can't we have a program similar to that to entry level racing into Moto America? Right? Because it's cheap, it's informative. I think it's very important that when people show up to a race weekend or just buy your first bike, you need to learn how to take your tires off, put a new chain and sprocket on, do all that normal stuff, that spark plugs and all that good stuff. So big shout out to BTR, Racer 411, 411 program at tippingracing.com. Big shout out to my man at Hyper Naked Suits, California Superbike UK, Moto Mutt International. Big shout out to Cole King at King Performance. My buddy Kevin has a new race series starting in Texas this weekend. It's SCMRC in Texas. It's a new racing organization, so big shout out to them. I hope you guys have a full successful weekend this weekend and a big turnout. My buddy Chris Lilligard's actually going to be out there. He's part of it too, so big shout out to them. Big shout out to Turn 12, Obsession Engineering out there in BSB, and last but not least, big shout out to BTI Photos. I know that's a lot, right? And I tell everybody, asks me all the time. They're like, "Dude, you got so many sponsors." I have a lot of friends, right? So let's get that right. And I don't ask anything from any of these people. It's just people that I know personally within the industry that's trying to help it grow, and all their products are absolutely amazing. And you are not going to go wrong by ordering anything from any one of these people. But go to bisontrack.com for your full custom suit. But everybody else, yeah, they're all amazing. So, Mallory, it's all you. The floor is all you.
It's hard to follow that up. I don't have that long of a list. Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, thank you, Chris, for having me on the podcast again. Happy to update you at any point throughout the season. Hopefully, we'll have some good updates, midway through. Yeah, and yeah, thank you again. And I mean, my list is, like I said, pretty short. You already mentioned KYT. They've taken really good care of me. Doreen, Ducati Richmond, OnlyFans, Motorsports of Olympia, Support Moto Racing, which is on this helmet right here. Anthony, he's been starting a new initiative to really try to help and give back to the community in motorsports. So, he's taken some of his own money and really given it back to club racers and all sorts of people. So, we were down at Chuckwalla this last season, giving away like $100 gift cards and things, like just really cool to be able to give back to the community and to the sport. And then really that's his goal. So it's really cool to see.
What's his name?
Their company Support Moto Racing, and his name's Anthony.
I need to reach out to him and get him on the podcast.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's really cool. He supports Joe Roberts, and then I'm his other supported rider. So,
what's his last name?
That's a good question.
You know what? You just text me all the information.
I'll send it to you. Yeah. I just have him as Anthony Support Motor Racing in my phone. So
I love it.
And then they're Fuel Injected 21 on Instagram. So, Superbike Underground, Don Beck, he's my mad scientist behind the scenes. I wouldn't be able to do this without him helping me work on the bike and everything. So, he'll be building the bikes for the Moto America rounds. Ken Dawson with Ken Dawson Customs. He does all my paint work on my bikes. I'm excited. So we just posted my R7 with the blue sparkly stuff a couple weeks ago. We're going to do a specialty paint job for the Moto America round. I'm super excited about that. Mad Vinyl Works. He does all my custom graphics for all my bikes. So for our championship stuff, you'll get to see that. And then he'll do all my Moto America stuff as well. Sam with Edge Designs, who did my helmet wrap. Always hit him up. He also gets his stuff printed by REB Graphics, I think. So Ravenhammer Research, TJ, let's see, Vortex, 2 Fast Track Days. If you're up in Washington, you want to go to the Ridge and go to a track day, 2 Fast is where it's at. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching there as well. And YVS Sabadell, which is the dealership in Spain, who's helping me out. And I think that's all I got. And OnlyFans. So thank you to everybody who supported my program. Obviously, it's really great to be here on the podcast to be able to share my journey, and everybody who's supporting me as well, to provide them with support. So
I love it. I love it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was an absolute honor to sit down on this beautiful Saturday morning or evening, depending on where you are, with the legend Mallory Dobbs. Stay tuned. Please join in. Go to worldsuperbike.com, sign in. They have you can sign. They have a subscription plan too. You can do just like Moto America and Moto GP.
Yeah.
So make sure. Go ahead.
And all of our races are free on YouTube. All the women's championship are live free on YouTube. So.
And that's World Superbike on YouTube. You got to go to watch it, right?
World WCR, I think, has their own channel.
Okay,
so,
World WCR.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So listen, sign up, log in, join the community. Cheer Mallory on for all those championships she's going to be bringing home this year and top medals. Let's go. We're all behind you, Mallory. We love you. We fully support you, and we can't wait to see what you bring this year in this season. I got a little tongue twisted up there for a second. So Jesse Marie says, yeah, girl, let's go. Well, with the big hearts and the flag. I just think that's funny, right? Brian Green says, late to the show, but I'm here. Let's go, Mallory Dobbs. Yes, Brian, let's go. Absolutely. And then Roger, what is up, Roger, from Moto Drone Racing, says, Simcoe, hi, Mallory, good luck this season.
Thank you.
I love it. I had to get them in real quick before I end the show. But again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for joining us for an hour and a half on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. I hope everybody's weekend is as proper mega as you are. Don't forget to tune in, watch Mallory and MotoGP. Today the actually sprint race is probably going on right now. So that's what I'm gonna go watch. So listen, Mallory, it's been an absolute honor. Thank you so much. It's always an honor to see you out there at the races, and can't wait to sit back down again and chatty Cathy it all up and catch up.
Heck yeah, sounds good.
All right, we will see you guys soon in this podcast.
Calling all two-wheel enthusiasts, get ready to rev up your earbuds with Pin the Gas Podcast, the ultimate motorcycle racing podcast, hosted by Chris Simcoe, one of our very own excellent leaders here in Roanoke, Virginia. With expert analysis, behind-the-scenes stories, and exclusive writer interviews, Pin the Gas podcast delivers the adrenaline rush of the racetrack straight to your ears. Whether you're a diehard fan or a curious newcomer, you'll gain insights that will transform how you watch and understand motorcycle racing. On your favorite podcast app, join Simcoe as he takes you on a high-speed journey through the world of motorcycle racing. Pin the Gas podcast.